Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, May 22nd, 2025. I'm Jane Johnston with the Bar Hill Group with Remax Camosa. Welcome to the Victoria Real Estate Show with...
Well, hello, everybody. Andrew Plank here with Vibe Collective and Royal LePage.
And Jen Lowe, mortgage broker with DLC Modern Mortgage Group.
Yeah, we're all
Good
here.
morning.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, Jane. Yeah.
How did it go?
I think we did just fine without you.
See how relaxed I am.
Yeah. Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Oh, we're all talking at once.
Go ahead. Talk, Jen. You go first.
Oh, last week was a rough week for me. We had some internet issues at my office. We had printer scanner issues. It was a bit of a tough go, but all fixed and new.
Good. How about you, Andrew?
Nice. Yeah, busy week, work-wise, and also had some family visiting, and so good for that. And just, yeah, it's a good week, and the weather's been nice. I don't know. It's just all is good. Everything's right in the world, except what's
awesome. Well, I was away for longer than I had planned. I was actually very sick for one of those weeks. I had a really bad cold, and it was my aunt's 90th birthday, so I couldn't not go. And we had a fabulous time. I took my sister and my son, and yeah, it was good.
All right, cool.
So go ahead.
Let's get into the show, and today we're going to talk about. Of course, we're always going to talk about what happened in the last week for stats, but we're also going to talk a couple of scary topics, and we're not going to go deeply into it, but we're going to talk about sinkholes and tsunamis. So, scary.
All righty. So, how about first we start with the financing report? Jen, what's going on?
Well, inflation numbers came in earlier this week, and although the inflation number was lower than the 2% target, our core inflation was higher than 2%. So there is a bit of concern now on whether or not Bank of Canada will drop the overnight lending rate on June 4th. We'll see what happens there. We're also seeing and expecting 5-year fixed rates to increase. So,
okay.
Yes. So
because they want to stop the spending.
Yes. And what happened, I guess, is there was a 20-year bond auction in the U.S. and investors didn't show up. Is what recently happened. So due to the lack of demand, the government has to offer higher yields to attract buyers. And that ripple effect crosses over into Canada, and our bond yields are also going up.
Interesting.
So we can blame it all.
We can blame it all on what's going on down south.
Yes.
Yeah. And what's happening down south is that people are not trusting enough that they're going to get a good return on. They don't trust that return on investment from the current bond offerings.
Yeah.
So the government has to offer more.
And there's too much overspending by the governments. Canada's deficit is 62 billion. And apparently the US is going to potentially add another 3 to 4 trillion.
With the,
I heard, what are they calling that budget?
The big, beautiful bill.
Big, beautiful bill.
That's what they're calling it. That's what it's being called down there. So, you know, that's a nice wrapping on a bill that's going to add a lot of spending. But I mean, that's, again, people paid a lot more than I am to weigh in on that stuff. So we don't really know for sure, but it does, according to the media, it's going to be adding, you know, trillions of, you know, a number of trillions to the US costs. So,
right.
So, you know, what's funny? I was in Spain and they're doing so well, and they have their immigration is up. They're like, there's tourists, there's Americans all over Spain and Mexico right now, and Canadians. Just saying.
Yeah.
The Americans are definitely spreading the love.
Traveling, you mean? Yeah.
No,
well,
and spending their money elsewhere.
Okay. Right. Okay. Well, as is always the case, you know, we all like to travel if we can afford it, and we all want to see places. And I've been to Spain once in my life, and it was absolutely beautiful. I do recommend it. But you know, and we don't want to be trashing our U.S. neighbors and what's going on down there. It's just always something new, and it does seem to be, as I've said before, as many people have said, you know, the U.S. sneezes and we catch a cold. So we do have to watch carefully what is going on down there, because it does give us some leading indicators of what's going to happen here. And actually, again, I want to just go back. What is core inflation versus inflation? Because you mentioned that I wasn't.
Yeah, core inflation takes into consideration the other pieces. So actually, here there's more involved to the core inflation.
Okay. All right. So it's not just what people like. What the traditional definition of inflation is, only considers a few things, or they're tracking a few things. Maybe like the consumer price index tracks a basket of goods. But when you look wider than that basket of bread, cheese, and eggs, or whatever is in that normal basket, that's where it starts to count. Okay.
The core inflation excludes volatile items like food and energy prices.
Oh, okay. Okay. And when you look at core inflation, that's actually higher than it was anticipated.
Yes, at 2.5% versus inflation came in at 1.7.
Okay. Thank you.
Alrighty. So let's go back to the show. Let's look at the market watch. Andrew, what's happening week over week?
Week over week, things are weak. This week, we had 694 new listings go live. That compared to 850 the week before. So down a little bit on new listings. Properties going pending are also down. And I remember the week before we were down a little bit as well. So we've been going down a couple of weeks in a row here. 340 properties went pending versus 359. Not a major drop off, but a slight difference. 318 price decreases versus 383 the week before. So people are, I guess, being a little tighter on their pricing, maybe not making as many decreases. We had 85 properties expire in the last week versus 97 the week before.
I cannot believe those numbers for price decreases. That's incredible. I mean, we were looking last year at the numbers in the 70s.
Yeah.
This tells me we are seeing a correction when I'm seeing that, or we're seeing a reality check, I guess is a good word for it.
I think reality check is where it's at. I mean, people still remember what some of the peaks were. I think anytime we're under a prior peak in the market, and we had a peak at, the end of COVID, when we're under that prior peak, people still kind of try to think about going back to that peak. That's the way I see it. I think it's psychological.
Yeah, well, it's just interesting. And do you remember what the numbers were the 2 weeks before? Were they in the 300s as well?
Yeah, I think they were up there. I don't, yeah, they would have been up there in the 300s.
So that's, if you look at the ratio, we're looking at almost 50%, like 45% of new listings and price decreases. So what that's saying to me is the number of viewings is probably down. So people are looking to get more activity. That's why they're decreasing.
Yeah, the longer you're on market, the more you're going to consider a price decrease. Obviously, you don't generally consider a price decrease in the first few days on market. So if it's been sitting around, you're gonna have to adjust because nobody's coming to the table.
So, and that just also brings another point, is that if you're going to be listing a property, and you better look at what's pending, because that not just sold, but what's pending, because that shows you the activity that's happening right now in the last few weeks.
Right. Yeah. That's the real-time indicator. If you were looking at a stock market ticker, you know, that's the most recent stuff, and it just gets you in tune with the market.
Yeah. Okay, so month to date in May of 2025, we've had 448 unconditional sales months as of May 22nd. That's compared to 763 for the full month of May last year. So that's actually not bad. New listings were at 1,093, and that's compared to 1,757 last year. And total active listings were up at 3,579, and that's up from the full month last year of 3,338. So we're there's lots of choice. It's a buyer's market to me when I see that. We will see the stats next week, so we'll understand more, I guess, as well.
Okay. Yep.
All right, Andrew.
So list to sell ratio. Now this is interesting because this counters what we were talking about in one sense, because we have a better list to sell ratio than we had the week before, which means that more properties are selling relative to those that are listing. We're almost at 50%. So we're at 48.99, so 49% list to sell ratio this month so far versus last month, which was at 42.24%.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If any of this interests you, please share it with your friends. Don't forget to ask questions, by the way, while we're going along, and share this with anybody who might be interested in buying or selling real estate. Okay. So just going back to our topic. Sorry about that.
Right. Yeah, we missed the topic. Yeah. So shall I take this?
Yeah.
So we're talking today about a couple of things, and I think we could start with the original topic was going to be about sinkholes and property rights and what happens when something happens on your property, when a developer develops the property and it's no longer safe. What happens? What government regulations come in? Where does this go? And so what came across my desk the other day was this the seashell sinkholes. Say that 10 times fast, please, both of you.
I was just thinking that.
Seashell sinkholes.
Seashell sinkholes.
Yeah, and I'd never heard of this before, but apparently a developer in Seychelles decided to develop in an area that had not been developed prior and make these beautiful water view homes on acreages. And I think about 15 homes were developed. And there was some reports done, and there was some indications that this area was unstable and could have problems. And the municipality allowed this development to go forward with the caveat that everyone had to sign some waivers. And so it went forward, but then huge sinkholes started opening up. The roadways were falling apart. And it was obviously dangerous. So the government stepped in and said, no, this area is now off limits, and we are taking this land away from you. And so it's an interesting question of what are property rights? These people haven't been able to access their property now for a few years. How did this happen? Obviously Jen, who works in lending, is probably would have nightmares about lending on a project like this, and how did this even get funding? Insurance, absolutely, yeah. So these are the kinds of things that we want to kind of, I guess, think about when we talk about. Let me just find this and share the screen here. Yeah, so this was just an interesting event. And, if you look at the photo here, we've got a photo here of a chain link fence blocking off some really derelict looking homes on the Sunshine Coast. And, I've seen footage of, areas of the world where, these ghost towns and beautiful, like recently developed areas that are no longer accessible. But I didn't realize we had this in our backyard. I just wanted to highlight for people. There was a 3-year state of emergency on the property until earlier this month when they opened it up to allow the owners to go back to access the homes. But nobody is living there.
I hear they're being vandalized too.
Yes, they're being vandalized. I mean, obviously, that's just, you've got a chain link fence and a bunch of empty homes. And I'm not sure if people's belongings were left behind as well. I don't think it was like you've got to leave immediately kind of emergency, but they were required to leave. So this is really a breadcrumb for folks. Just if you're curious about, Google, don't say it 10 times, but Google it. Sechelt, Sechelt. And check it out. Yes.
I'm curious what the substrate is beneath these homes. Is it gravel? Is it rock? Because it has to do with an abundance and then a lack of water, right? So the substrate's changing, and then what happens is I guess you get caking, and then the water comes in, and then it loses its integrity and flows out.
I think part of it had to do with the fact that they did come in and remove trees and change the topography above the land, which then caused different water runoff and different things as well. So, I guess I think my main point here is people trusted the system, and I'm not saying you shouldn't. There's a high degree that we have to always trust the system, but there were also warning signs, and I think there were warning signs, like there were waivers you had to sign. There were geological reports that people did review. And so this is maybe a parallel to the building in Langford that nobody can live in now because the engineers kind of messed up. And again, people trusted and relied on maybe one or two individuals or on a system, and it fell apart. And again,
it fell apart twice because
that one did,
yeah, because they let people in, and then they realized that the person who had done the upgraded assessment didn't do that properly as well. Well, let's talk tsunamis, because that's really close to home. So
that really, hopefully not, actually.
Yeah,
not close to home. But yes, let's talk tsunamis, because there was a recent article also that came out that caught my eye. When you see the word mega tsunami and West Coast, you kind of, we see and hear this for years, right? We've always been waiting for the big one. They talk about the big one. But this one talked about 1,000-foot waves. And that's scary.
1,000-foot waves. So we are right just west of a subduction zone. So we have two plates. We have the what's it called?
Cascade. There's a Cascadia zone.
There's a Pacific plate going under, which is pushing up the Cascade Mountains, and so this is why you feel every once in a while there's a shimmy, I guess, in the earth. But when you have a quick move, that's when you have.
That's a nightmare.
Then you have a drop, And then what happens is the water drops. It's kind of like when you're in a bathtub and then you get these waves coming up the side of the bathtub.
Exactly.
And so this is what a tsunami is. And they gather energy over time and then they hit the shores. And so what happens is you have this water hitting the shore and it goes like this up and over. That's why you get the big waves.
Right. And with this subduction, zone, and it moves so quickly and all of that water suddenly has to shift. It is a big one. And it's really funny how everyone understands that analogy of a bathtub, because everybody's been in the bathtub and gets that rolling wave happening when they're children. We've all had that shared experience.
So an earthquake, and I might sound dumb here, this is not my forte.
Absolutely.
Earthquake doesn't have to happen for the tsunami to happen? Don't we have to have an earthquake and then it creates a tsunami?
Yeah.
Normally, there have been mega tsunamis that have happened from major avalanches into fjords, for example, that then run the water to the other side and up the hill. So a mega tsunami doesn't have to happen from an earthquake. It could be a different natural disaster. I don't know, a big meteorite falling in the ocean. But we're talking about tsunamis here from an earthquake. And in this case, it's a different kind of tsunami than a regular, like back and forth, I guess, the earthquake that happened in Thailand was a different type of earthquake than we would experience here if we were to get that mega tsunami where the actual land shifts so much and drops so much that water now needs to fill that whole space. And that's unbelievable amounts of water now shifting towards the mainland and, inundating cities and populated areas.
Right. And so there is a map available on the CRD Atlas here, which shows where the tsunami zones are. So you can see up here, you're going to have Port Renfrew area in Souk. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then in certain areas, so I do know in Colwood, you can see along the shoreline. So interesting in here at the bottom where Petter Bay, my husband and I were working at Pearson College the last tsunami that came through, and he went down to the dock to watch it.
It's funny how people do this. Yeah.
He said it was like a bathtub, and I think it was going up and down about 3 or 4 feet every three to four times an hour. So it was just going shoo shoo in and out of the Petter Bay. So you can see the extent to which it's going to affect Greater Victoria, and it's along the shoreline and obviously low-lying areas. So here we have Royal Bay area here.
Esquimalt Lagoon.
Esquimalt Lagoon. And, to a lesser extent, it's going to happen up here on the east side of the island than it is on the west side of the island, because you're not in open ocean as much. So Shirley, French Beach, and all those areas.
Right. Now this is all calculated, I believe, on a 4 meter area, 3 or 4 meter area. So they're assuming a certain size of tsunami. We're not, that horrific AI generated image that was shown earlier from that media story would obviously capture a lot bigger area. So this is based on, I think, what most dangers of a tsunami would be. And then there's certain things that you just can't do much about when you've got 1,000-foot wave coming at you.
So this
I don't know. I had nightmares about this as a child, so this is really relevant to me.
So this is the Cadbro Bay area, and I do know that Santa Cruz has a plan for that area for tsunami, and Cadbro Bay Village. This is encompassing that along with the beach, but this is what interests me. This is in Oak Bay. I guess it's kind of low-lying area along the west side of Oak Bay. Mm-hmm. So these are going to be hit the most, and as you go up, you're just seeing it on basically on the shoreline, and then at the top of the East Saanich, where you have Island View Beach, which is a long beach. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, anytime you have low-lying areas like Island View Beach has got a lot of low-lying areas, so that you're going to get that. Now, if you're concerned about this stuff and you want to get early warning, hopefully, there are alert systems you can get onto. BC, I believe, has a general alert system, and Victoria has a Victoria alert system. You can just Google these as well. You can get onto various types of alerts and watch for that.
Okay, so let me just see if I could find that. And I'll post it in here.
Sounds good. It's called Vic-Alert. And I think I can probably post it myself here. Did you find it yet?
I've got a little resource here on how to prepare. You can post that link if you want.
Got it. Yeah, it's posted.
Okay. So this is how to prepare. So yeah, so don't buy low bank waterfront.
Or if you do, understand that it's temporary and have an exit plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we don't want to scare folks away from buying in beautiful BC and West Coast. But I mean, and I've joked and I've said this before, but we're one earthquake away from a housing crash. And there's the infrastructure damage that happens with an earthquake, and then there's obviously if there's a tsunami, that adds a whole other layer of water and other problems. But at the same time, anywhere you live is at risk of something, and this is the devil we know, and this is what we've lived under for many, many years, and it may or may not ever come to pass. So you can live in fear, or you can live you can continue to live. So
you can watch our show or continue to live without knowledge of this. Yeah. I will say that in Portugal, they talk about all these same things. They're in the same. They also are on a subduction zone, and they talk about tsunamis and all that stuff. And throughout the city, if you are buying, there are signs on the street that you are in a tsunami zone. So it's very prevalent. You can check that out if you're interested, and then ask your agent if you're curious, and they can provide these resources to you.
Absolutely.
I do find it interesting, this new word, a mega tsunami. Is this a new word, or is this something that's been around and we just have never had?
You mean like an atmospheric river, right?
Yes.
Like there were things we'd never heard of until it. Yes. I mean, the term had been coined many years ago, but it became common knowledge or common use recently. Mm-hmm. Atmospheric river. Mega tsunami, I don't know. It catches people's eyes and it hits the news cycle and out it goes. Mm-hmm. I mean, this isn't actually, this is hitting the news cycle and people are talking about it, and there's a recent scientific report talking about it. But we've been hearing about the chances of a mega earthquake hitting the West Coast for years. The question of what happens as a result is other. So
yeah. The other thing is we talk about global warming, and that's changed to climate change, because there is climate change, and global warming is assuming one thing. Climate change is it's a broader term. So the question is, I guess, what will garner the attention needed to make the change?
For humans to change their behavior to help if there's any chance of us turning the dial one way or another. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Words are powerful, and we shall see.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. So we're going to be on again next Thursday at 9:30. I don't know what's going on here. Hold on. I am not sharing. Remove. There we go. Andrew, how do we get in touch with you every week? If we have a question, a wise one.
If you have a question, a wise one. If you have a question, call Jane.
What's my number?
250-744 0775. How is that, Jane? Do I know your number?
Yes, you do.
I got your number.
Okay.
Jane.
I'm going to do Andrew. Okay. If you want to get in touch with Andrew, you can give him a call at 250-360-6106. His email is info@andrewplank.com. You can go to his website at andrewplank.com. And you can follow him on Instagram at plankandrew. Hey, what do you say?
Wow. That was great. And you know what? I could never do it as well as you do. So that's amazing. Thank you. I'm going to try yours. But
okay, hold on.
Just know that it's not going to be as good.
I'm Jen Lowe, mortgage broker at Dominion Lending Center's Modern Mortgage Group, number 250-217-4925. My email is jen@jenlowe.ca, and my website is jenlowe.ca.
And she's a professional.
She is.
Plank.
And if you wish
Plankster.
to reach Jane Johnston, Master of Education, Personal Real Estate Corporation with the Briar Hill Group, please give her a call at 250-744-0775. You can reach her directly by email, jane@briarhillgroup.com, and check out her briarhillgroup.com website. It will be amazing.
Well done.
And my Instagram is realtyteacher_Remax_Victoria. And we're coming out with a brand new logo for Briar Hill Group, which we will be revealing in the next week or two. So ironically, I'm looking at your logos and there's a bit of blue in our new logo. So look out, world.
Okay.
Nice.
All right.
All right,
everybody. Thank you so much for coming.
We'll see you next Thursday at 9:30. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Don't be scared.
You have unread texts from Golf Buds. Would you like me to read them?
Yes.
Okay. Johnny says, what are the nicotine pouches you had on the course? Walker says, 8 milligram on nicotine pouches. Billy says, I love the mint one.
I like that one.
Walker says, me too. By the way, you both stink at golf. LOLOL.
Come on. Carry on nicotine pouches. Shop now at onnicotine.com/group text. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.